Good morning, all of you. Welcome to the channel. So, in today's analysis video, we'll be taking up the newspapers for 16th of May 2023. So, let's start. So, regarding the Manipur violence, center is against any ethnic division, says the Manipur Chief Minister. So, that's there, and the center it has ruled out dividing Manipur on ethnic lines, and basically the Chief Minister of Manipur met the Home Minister, and all the situation like it was briefed to him, and he said that the state's territorial integrity will not be compromised at any cost. And also, it was said that stern action would be taken under a suspension of operations agreement against the extremist groups for possessing weapons illegally in Manipur. And Manipur has like somewhere around 30 extremist outfits which are belonging to the Kukichin Zomi group, of which 25 they are party to this agreement. So that is one of the things that would be taken up in order to ensure peace in the state of Manipur. Apart from this, we have discussed all the relevant points. So this is getting repeated every day. So we'll go into the details of the Shiv Sena case and analyzing the verdict and what were the core issues in this Shiv Sena case. So the original party, it's a point of reference. So let's see what would be the more details that we'll be looking into. Then also FRA, Forest Rights Act, and then tribals that would be taken up. So SEBI, it denies probing Adani since 2016. Congress said that minister misled Lok Sabha. So the SEBI in Supreme Court, it denied as factually baseless the allegations that it had been investigating the Adani group since 2016, triggering a war of words between the Congress and the finance minister. So SEBI has completely denied no, this is completely baseless and false. So, but इससे regarding जो Hindenburg ने allegations लगाए हैं against the Adani group, उसमें definitely time period set किया गया है कि you need to complete the entire investigation regarding that. But ये बोलना कि SEBI it was probing the Adani since 2016, so that would be wrong. And here is it's a picture from Myanmar's Rakhine state, where cyclone Mocha, it made a landfall. So basically it caused so much of destruction. So the Union Home Minister says that if law is drafted well, judiciary won't get the opportunity to overstep it. कि अगर लॉ को ही आप इतने अच्छे से ड्राफ्ट करो, ड्राफ्टिंग स्टेज में ही वो इतना अच्छा हो कि जुडिशरी के पास कोई अपॉर्चुनिटी ही नहीं बचेगी टू ओवरस्टेप इट. सो द रिटन डिबेट्स ऑफ टाइम जब आर्टिकल 378 वाज इंसर्टेड, दे आर नॉट अवेलेबल. Whoever drafted the law was sharp enough to add temporary provisions against it. So, अगर हम बात करें कि उस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम के रिटर्न डिबेट्स तो दे आर नॉट अवेलेबल. सो हमें नहीं पता मतलब which all members they were part of when it comes to drafting Article 370. So Union Home Minister said that if a law it was drafted well, the judiciary would not get an opportunity to overstep it. And he made the remarks at the inauguration of the training program on the legislative drafting, or it was organized by Pride and ICPS, or for the officers of the parliament and the state legislators. So there he was saying कि अगर आप laws को इतने अच्छे से draft करोगे, then judiciary के पास opportunity ही नहीं बचेगी. So he said laws should be drafted in as simple and clear words as possible, because difficult words they always created controversy. So they need to be very simple and subtle so that even common man can understand them. So making a law that cannot be disputed for the next 25 years, and the court does not need to intervene. It's a medal for drafting a good law. कि अगर आज सपोज आज आप कोई ऐसा लॉ ड्राफ्ट करते हो एंड नेक्स्ट 25 years में there is no need to have a relook at that particular law, या फिर ऐसा नहीं हो कि जुडिशरी को इंटरवीन ना करना पड़े, तो तब we can say कि that is, we can say it's a kind of a model या ideal situation when it comes to law drafting. And then he also made a reference to Article 370 as we just saw here. So he said the spirit of our languages, that was important, and as most laws, they were drafted in English. Many a time, the intent of the legislator that was not reflected in the English version. So obviously that's true कि कभी-कभी ऐसा होता है कि जो आपकी original intention है, that is not reflected in the English version, and obviously that can be easily reflected अगर वो हिंदी में draft किया जाता है या और किसी language में draft किया जाता. But इंग्लिश में बेसिकली ये प्रॉब्लम हमें फेस करने को मिली है कि जो ओरिजिनल इंटेंट है दैट हैज नॉट बीन रिफ्लेक्टेड इन द ड्राफ्टेड लॉ. एंड देन ही आल्सो सेड कि ग्रे एरियाज नहीं मतलब होने चाहिए इन द लॉज. सो इवन लाइक अगर देर आर ग्रे एरियाज तो स्कोप फिर क्रिएट कर देता है फॉर एनक्रोचमेंट, एंड द लेजिस्लेशन इट शुड बी ड्राफ्टेड इन अ मैनर दैट reflected the political will of the cabinet or the parliament. So words, they should be expanded to sentences. So he also said कि जो laws हैं they need to reflect political will of cabinet या फिर parliament. So most laws, they are drafted in English, but to reflect the spirit of our languages is very important. So many times जो intent है legislature की does not match with the English translation of the law. So these were some of his viewpoints, and that's what he guided the legislators. कि लॉ इस तरीके से ड्राफ्ट किए जाने चाहिए कि नेक्स्ट 25 years में उनको मतलब उनकी वजह से कोई भी डिस्प्यूट ना हो एंड जुडिशरी को भी इंटरवीन ना करना पड़े. Moving forward, so coming to the editorial page, here we'll talk about the Shiv Sena issue and Supreme Court की क्या verdict रहा, क्या core issues थे. Although इसको हम discuss कर चुके हैं जब Supreme Court की judgment आई, but we'll take this up again. So the most interesting thing about the Supreme Court of India's judgment on the Shiv Sena issue is that both sides think that it is in their favor. So दोनों parties को ये लगता है कि जो judgment आई है वो उनके favor में है. So Chief Justice of India has apparently analyzed the issues with clarity and reached conclusions with great amount of ingenuity. So however it eludes ordinary citizens, how each party can think that the statement of law contained in the judgment, it is in its favor. So it's necessary to analyze the judgment and find out what the top court of the land has actually said on the contentious issues brought up before the court. So सबसे पहला था floor test. So Supreme Court ने बोला that it was wrong in law. Maharashtra governor का जो action था in calling for the floor test, it has been very severely criticized by the court, which characterized it as illegal also. So Supreme Court ने बोला कि जो governor का decision था, महाराष्ट्र के जो governor थे, to call for a floor test, and आपको basically नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन हम बोल रहे हैं एक तरीके से कि जो इनकम्बेंट गवर्नमेंट है उसको प्रूव करनी पड़ेगी अपनी मेजोरिटी. सो वो डिसीजन जो था गवर्नर का, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि दैट वाज इलीगल एंड दैट वाज बेसिकली रॉन्ग आल्सो. सो this is one thing, this was one part which the Supreme Court talked about in the judgment. बट हमने ये देखा कि उसके बाद जो चीफ मिनिस्टर थे उस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे उन्होंने खुद अपनी मर्जी से वॉलंटरली रिजाइन कर दिया। तो इसीलिए इसके रिगार्डिंग सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि जो पहले वाली पॉलिटिकल पोजीशन थी उसको वो रिस्टोर करने के लिए कोई स्टेप्स नहीं ले सकती है एज अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस जजमेंट, क्योंकि चीफ मिनिस्टर ने खुद अपनी मर्जी से रिजाइन किया था एंड फ्लोर टेस्ट हो ही नहीं पाया। सो this was another point. And despite an overall analysis of the issues with clarity, the judgment creates some confusion by talking about factions and the need for the speaker to decide which faction is the real party. So कुछ areas जैसे कि जो अभी mention किया गया, यहाँ पे इतनी हमें clarity नहीं मिल रही है through this judgment and it has created more confusion. And then we talk about validity of whip. So coming to the question of disqualification of the MLAs who defied the whip. So basic issue is कि किसकी whip valid है. So जैसे कि ये हुआ both the groups उन्होंने whip issue की to all the members of the Shiv Sena party and each group has moved disqualification petitions against the other group. So दोनों ने disqualification petition भी move करी है अगेंस्ट ईच अदर एंड दोनों ने विप भी इशू करी थी। तो क्वेश्चन ये आता है कौन सी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी की विप वैलिड मानी जाएगी। सो इट हैज बीन राइटली हेल्ड बाय द कोर्ट की जो डिसीजन था ऑन डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन पिटिशन दैट शुड बी टेकन इन द फर्स्ट इंस्टेंस बाय द स्पीकर। सो डेफिनेटली डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन की जब हम पावर्स की बात करते हैं तो पावर्स लाइज विद द स्पीकर, बट इस पे कोई फिक्स टाइम फ्रेम मेंशन नहीं है। So the matter of disqualification it has been referred back to the speaker and Supreme Court इस पे final take नहीं लेगा। So speaker के पास power है, he will be deciding about the disqualification. So in this context, the most basic question था that should be raised is किसकी whip valid है। So Supreme Court had stated clearly in the judgment that it is a political party which can appoint the whip as well as the legislative party leader and not the legislative party. So legislative party के जो leader है they can appoint, that person can appoint the whip and it is not legislative party, it is the political party which can appoint. So judgment it has imported needless confusion by stating कि जब कोई split होता है in a party, two factions arise and no single faction is the party. So जब स्प्लिट की बात कर रहे हैं मैं पॉलिटिकल पार्टी में तो दो फैक्शंस क्रिएट हो जाते हैं, तो उन दोनों फैक्शन में से ये बोला जा रहा है सुप्रीम कोर्ट के द्वारा कि उनमें से कोई भी फैक्शन एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी हम नहीं बोल सकते आफ्टर द स्प्लिट। सो जब हम 10th शेड्यूल की बात करते हैं, सो 10th शेड्यूल ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन टॉक्स अबाउट द एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ, सो इट कॉन्टेम्पलेट्स एन ओरिजिनल पॉलिटिकल पार्टी। सो ओरिजिनल यहाँ पे आप ध्यान दीजिए, original political party and faction which arose as a result of a split in the original party when paragraph 3 contained the split provision. So after the split provision, it was omitted. The original political party changes only when a merger under the paragraph 4 takes place. So जब original political party it merges with another party, either that party becomes the original political party या हम बोल सकते हैं कि एक new party बन गई है after the merger between two factions. So point is that like there is always an original political party which is the point of reference for the purpose of deciding the question of disqualification कि हमेशा obviously जब भी कोई disqualification से regarding कुछ question आएगा या कुछ issue रहेगा तो हमेशा कोई ना कोई एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी इट वुड बी कंसिडर्ड एज ओरिजिनल पॉलिटिकल पार्टी। सो रेफरेंस के लिए ऑब्वियसली आपको रेफरेंस तो लेना पड़ेगा ना कि ओरिजिनल पॉलिटिकल पार्टी कौन सी है एंड दूसरी कौन सी है, या आपने मतलब अगर हम बोल रहे हैं कि स्प्लिट हो रहा है पॉलिटिकल पार्टी में तो उस केस में भी आपको ये डिसाइड करना इंपॉर्टेंट रहेगा कि ओरिजिनल पॉलिटिकल पार्टी कौन सी है। सो हाउएवर वी सी कि जो 10th शेड्यूल है इट डज नॉट कॉन्टेम्पलेट two rival factions at any time. So explanation to paragraph 2 subclause 1 it is very crucial in determining the question. So it says if we're talking about paragraph 2 it is saying कि elected member of a house should be deemed to belong to the political party if any by which he was set up as a candidate for election as such member. तो जिस political party के through you were elected in the house and you became an MLA, तो उस ही पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को कंसिडर किया जाएगा. एंड दिस एक्सप्लेनेशन क्लैरिफाइज की जो पार्टी एफिलिएशन है ऑफ अ डिफेक्टिंग मेंबर. तो यहाँ से आपको ये क्लैरिफिकेशन मिल जाएगी. So according to this explanation, all the members of the Shinde faction, they belong to the original political party, which was शिव सेना. मतलब जिस पॉलिटिकल पार्टी से उन्होंने डिफेक्ट किया था, एंड they formed their own group. So it was led by जो original शिव सेना थी, it was led by the उद्धव ठाकरे. So it must be made clear कि under the 10th schedule, Mr. Thackeray's party, it is not a faction. So जो उद्धव ठाकरे वाली पॉलिटिकल पार्टी थी, it was the original political party in this case, and it was not a faction. So it is the original political party, and it is this original political party जिसकी whip valid मानी जाएगी. So ऐसे cases में original political party की whip valid मानी जाती है and not of any political faction. So this judgment creates a certain amount of confusion by talking about factions and the need for the speaker to decide which faction is the real party. So Supreme Court could have decisively stated that it is the Uddhav Thackeray's party, which is the original political party alone could issue a valid whip. So if it had said so, Mumbai would have been in it would not have been in such a state of confusion as it finds itself in today. सो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ये ऑल्दो मतलब डायरेक्टली नहीं बोला कि जो उद्धव ठाकरे वाली शिवसेना पार्टी है दैट इज द ओरिजिनल पॉलिटिकल पार्टी. सो उसकी वजह से थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन हो गया, एंड बेसिकली सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बस ये बोला कि इट इज द स्पीकर ऑफ द हाउस जो डिसाइड करेगा कि कौन सा फैक्शन रियल पार्टी का आप कैटेगराइज करोगे एंड कौन सा एक पॉलिटिकल फैक्शन होगा बस. So a court recall that impacts the rights of the accused. So Supreme Court of India's order on May 1 seeking to recall its own decision in the Ritu Chhabria versus Union of India upon the insistence of the Solicitor General of India, Tushar Mehta, that central investigation agencies, they were facing difficulties has caused concern among the legal professionals. सो इवन रिगार्डिंग दिस जजमेंट हमने पहले भी बात करी है, तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि इट इज नॉट इम्पोर्टेंट कि जो बाकी कोर्ट्स है इंडिया में दे वुड बी लाइक गोइंग बाय दिस जजमेंट ऑफ द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. हाउएवर होता ये है कि जो भी जजमेंट दी जाएगी सुप्रीम कोर्ट दैट वुड बी फॉलोड बाय द अदर कोर्ट्स इन इंडिया अगर कोई सिमिलर नेचर का केस आगे फ्यूचर में आता है. बट इस केस के रिगार्डिंग, इस जजमेंट के रिगार्डिंग सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्लियरली मेंशन कर दिया पहले ही, it is not important कि you have to abide by this judgment in the verdict of this case. So यहाँ पे besides questionable legality of the court recalling its own decision, what is of concern to is कि how this order it would impact the rights of the accused to be released from the custody. So अपने interim order में Supreme Court had clarified that courts they could grant the default bail independent of and without relying on this judgment. So मैंने आपको बोला, and however court का जो decision है to suspend the rights of defendants in the criminal cases, it will lead to further erosion of constitutional rights of the accused and deviate from the fundamental principles of criminal procedure. सो राइट टू डिफॉल्ट बेल को थोड़ा और डिटेल में समझते हैं. राइट टू स्टैट्यूटरी बेल इट इज ऑफन नोन एज डिफॉल्ट बेल. तो जो राइट है एक अक्यूज्ड की टू स्टैट्यूटरी बेल उसको हम डिफॉल्ट बेल भी बोलते हैं. दैट इज अवेलेबल टू द अक्यूज्ड पर्संस इन केसेस जब इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग एजेंसी दे फेल टू कंप्लीट इट्स इन्वेस्टिगेशन विद इन द स्टिपुलेटेड टाइम. तो इस पर्टिकुलर केस में, इस टाइप के केसेस में आपको स्टैट्यूटरी बेल मिलना आपकी राइट है. आपको डिफॉल्ट बेल दी जानी चाहिए जब जो इन्वेस्टिगेशन एजेंसीज हैं एंड एक प्रॉपर टाइम फ्रेम आपको दिया जाता है, टाइम पीरियड दिया जाता है कि इस टाइम पीरियड के अंदर अंदर आपको इन्वेस्टिगेशन कंप्लीट करनी है, बट इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग एजेंसी जो है वो it fails to complete that investigation in a stipulated time period, so then you have this right to statutory bail. So under section 167 of the CRPC, maximum time available to investigators is 60 to 90 days, depending on the seriousness of the offense. So this is fixed. Time period, it is fixed. And authorities, if they are unable to complete this investigation within this time period, so accused can seek to be released from the custody by applying for default bail under the first proviso to section 167 clause 2 of CRPC. So notably, the default characteristic of this bail, it comes from the fact the application is unrelated to the merits of the case, and it is designated to prevent long-term detention of the accused. So main purpose यही है to prevent the long-term detention. And this right to default bail, it has been characterized by the court in multiple judgments as an indefeasible right flowing from Article 21 of the Constitution, which guarantees you right to life and personal liberty. So even this right to default bail, it flows from Article 21 of the Constitution, which is a fundamental right. So therefore, in cases जहाँ पे investigating authorities they attempted to circumvent this procedure, the court rightly called out these tactics and refused to extend the custodial detention of the accused. So यहाँ पे different judgments भी mentioned हैं, and बट वी सी जब हम रियलिटी की बात करते हैं कि जो भी प्रोटेक्शंस they were guaranteed to the accused, they were also whittled away in practice, as we see कि investigating authorities they routinely filed incomplete or supplementary charge sheets within 60 to 90 day period to prevent the accused from seeking the default bail. So अगर हम बाकी instances की बात करें तो investigating authorities they would file the charge sheets चाहे वो like इनकम्प्लीट ही क्यों ना हो, सो इनकम्प्लीट चार्जशीट्स ही फाइल की जाती है विद इन दिस टाइम पीरियड बाय द इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग एजेंसी, सो दैट जो अक्यूज्ड हैं दे कैन नॉट आस्क फॉर द राइट टू डिफॉल्ट बेल. सो जो ये ऋतु छाबड़िया वाली जजमेंट है, इसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि इट बेसिकली डीलेजिटिमाइज्ड सच इलीगल प्रैक्टिसेस एंड हेल्ड की कंप्लीट incomplete charge sheets which were filed by the police, they would not bar an accused from applying for the default bail. कि मतलब जो ये पुलिस की tactics है कि टाइम पीरियड आपके पास फिक्स्ड है, तो अगर आपकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन पूरी नहीं होती है तो पुलिस क्या करती है, जो इनकम्प्लीट चार्जशीट है उसी को सबमिट कर देती है. तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ये बोला इन द रितु छाबड़िया जजमेंट कि जो ये पुलिस की टैक्टिक्स है ताकि अक्यूज अपनी राइट टू डिफॉल्ट बेल ना मतलब मांग सके and does not file for that, so वो incomplete charge sheets ही submit कर देते हैं. तो Supreme Court held this as delegitimized. Basically it was held illegal in a way we can say. And ये बोला कि अगर incomplete charge sheet फाइल की जाती है तो this would not stop the accused from applying for the default bail. So court emphasized कि जो preliminary या incomplete nature of these police reports they revealed, investigation it was not complete. But most importantly, in Ritu Chabaria, the court did not lay down any radically new proposition. So ऐसा कुछ हमें नहीं देखने को मिला in the judgment. Rather, it drew from the prior judgments, like जो पहले की judgments थी, तो उन्हीं के basis पे this judgment was based. So that is the case regarding this judgment. So talking about the sexual harassment law, which is there in order to prevent it in the workplace. So how did this POSH Act come into being? The Prevention of Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act hai? How did it actually come into being, and how does it define sexual harassment and then workplace? What does it require employers to do? Matlab basically क्या provisions hai of this law, and what are the serious lapses which have been flagged by the Supreme Court जब हम implementation of this act की बात करते हैं, and what has been the hurdles to the law's implementation. So this law, it completes 10 years and it came into force in 2013. So Supreme Court Bench of India has said there are serious lapses and uncertainty regarding the implementation of this law. Serious lapses and uncertainty. So coming to the first question कि इस एक्ट को मतलब ये एक्ट कैसे बनाया गया. So 1992 में Banwari Devi, she was a social worker with the Women's Department project of the Rajasthan government. She was gang raped by 5 men after she tried to prevent the marriage of a 1-year-old girl. 1-year-old girl, she was getting married, and जब उन्होंने उसको रोकने की कोशिश करी, so she was raped by 5 men. So while hearing the pleas which were filed by the activist groups against this crime, Supreme Court, noting the absence of any law enacted to provide for the effective enforcement of the basic human rights of gender equality, guarantee against the sexual harassment in the workplaces, laid down a set of guidelines in 1997, which is known as the Vishakha guidelines, to fill the statutory vacuum till a law could be enacted. So Supreme Court ने उस time पे बोला कि there is no one comprehensive law which which is aimed at providing a safe environment specifically to women at the workplace, and which basically protects their interests and their rights and ensures them safety. So जब तक हम एक proper comprehensive law नहीं लेके आते, तो for the time being temporary basis पे Supreme Court ने basically ये बोला कि मतलब बोला क्या मतलब उसके बाद 1997 में we had the विशाखा guidelines on temporary basis जब तक कि law नहीं आ जाता. So after this, we saw कि protection of women against the sexual harassment of workplace bill उसको introduce किया गया in 2007. So it was later tabled in the parliament and went through the amendments, and जो amended bill था, it came into force in 2013 as the Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act. So that's how this act came into being. So अब इस act के बारे में थोड़ा और समझते हैं क्या इसके provisions हैं. So act, it is defining what is sexual harassment, and basically definition is like it defines sexual harassment to include unwelcome acts such as physical contact, sexual advances, or demand or request for the sexual favors, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, and any other unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. So that is basically how sexual harassment, it has been defined as per this law. Then इस लॉ में एम्प्लॉय की डेफिनेशन भी प्रोवाइड की गई है कि एम्प्लॉय को आप कैसे डिफाइन करोगे. सो इट इज डिफाइंड नॉट जस्ट इन अकॉर्डेंस विद द कंपनी लॉ. So all women employees, whether they are employed regularly, temporarily, contractually है या ad hoc basis पे या daily wage basis पे भी है, मतलब interns are also a part of employees, apprentices or interns, and even employed without the knowledge of the principal employer, they can seek redressal to sexual harassment in the workplace. So basically, बोल सकते हैं the definition is very broad of an employee. So law expands the definition of workplace beyond the traditional offices to include all kinds of organizations across sectors, and even non-traditional workplaces. They are also covered under workplace as per this law. कि जो traditional offices are definitely वो तो है ही है, but अच्छी बात ये है कि it is not restricted to only those traditional offices. And then again, it is applicable to all the public and the private sector organizations throughout India. So as per this law, क्या requirements है which needs to be fulfilled या imposed by the employers? So it requires any employer with more than 10 employees to form an internal complaints committee, which can be approached by any woman employee to file a formal sexual harassment complaint. So basically, ऐसी organization the employer जहाँ पे 10 people are working under him or her, तो उस केस में आपको इंटरनल कंप्लेंट्स कमेटी बनानी इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाएगी. एंड अगर ऐसा कोई इंसिडेंट मतलब if any employee has to like has witnessed या suffered from that, तो वो complain कर सके through this committee. So this committee, it has to be headed by a woman and have at least 2 women employees or होने चाहिए and another employee and a third party such as an NGO worker with 5 years of experience familiar with the challenges of sexual harassment. So that's how the composition of this internal complaints committee goes. एंड इसके अलावा द एक्ट इट इज ऑल्सो मैंडेटिंग कि हर एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट में इन द कंट्री इट नीड्स टू क्रिएट अ लोकल कमिटी to receive the complaints from women working in firms with less than 10 employees and from the informal sector also, including domestic workers, home-based workers, voluntary government social workers. So if it is like the cases of less than 10 employees, तो आप जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट की लोकल कमेटी है आप उसको केस रिपोर्ट कर सकते हो. एंड देन एम्प्लॉयर को एनुअल ऑडिट रिपोर्ट भी फाइल करना इंपॉर्टेंट है विद द डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफिसर अबाउट कि कितने नंबर ऑफ सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट कंप्लेंट्स उनके पास फाइल की गई एंड क्या एक्शंस लिए गए. सो हर साल एक एनुअल ऑडिट रिपोर्ट भी एम्प्लॉयर को फाइल करनी इंपॉर्टेंट है. नाउ टॉकिंग अबाउट कि क्या हर्डल्स है व्हेन इट कम्स टू द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ द एक्ट. सो रिसेंटली सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला है कि there is lacunae in the constitution of the internal complaints committee, citing a newspaper report that 16 of the 30 national sports federations in the country had not constituted an internal complaints committee to date. So because of this wrestlers protest, ये चीज highlight की गई and we came to know about it कि sports federations की अगर हम खाली बात करें तो टोटल देर आर 30 इन द कंट्री ऑल ओवर एंड उनमें से 16 ऐसे हैं जहाँ पे इंटरनल कंप्लेंट्स कमेटी ही एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती है. एंड देन जजमेंट इट ऑल्सो फ्लैग्ड इम्प्रॉपर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इन केसेस जहाँ पे मतलब आईसीसी बनाई भी गई है बट उनका जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है या बोल सकते हैं हम कॉम्पोजिशन है जो मेंबर्स हैं even that is not being followed. So pointing out key that either like had an adequate number of members थे या it lacked mandatory जो external member NGO member mention किया गया है with 5 years of experience in such types of cases. So मतलब all in all we can say कि there is ineffective implementation. Then another concern is the Act does not satisfactorily address the accountability, not specifying who is the in charge of ensuring key workplaces they comply with the Act and who can be held responsible if its provisions they are not followed. So Act इस बारे में भी बात नहीं करता है बेसिकली अकाउंटेबिलिटी के बारे में कि अगर मतलब बेसिकली सपोज कि यहाँ पे हम खाली अगर स्पोर्ट्स फेडरेशन की बात करें कि अगर दे आर नॉट कंप्लाइंग विद द प्रोविजंस तो उनके अगेंस्ट क्या एक्शन लिया जाना चाहिए या who will be responsible for the non-failure of implementation of the act. So iske regarding basically this act is like missing on this element and it does not talk about any such thing. So accountability wala aspect is missing. And then there's another challenge that this law is largely inaccessible to women workers in the informal sector. So वहाँ पे basically एक तो awareness नहीं है, तो that needs to be worked upon. And again, it remains inaccessible. So we need to take steps so that it becomes accessible, it moves closer towards them. So additionally, experts, they have noted in workplaces, sexual harassment cases, they are hugely underreported also for a number of reasons. So जो cases हैं hugely underreported वाला case भी exist करता है. So बाकी challenge जो है that is ineffective functioning and the lack of clarity in the law about how to conduct such inquiries, they have ended up duplicating the access barriers associated with the justice system. Most importantly, power dynamics of the organizations and fear of the professional repercussions that also stand in the way of women for filing the complaint. So even that is one of the reasons why such cases are underreported कि आपके professionally क्या repercussions, क्या consequences रहेंगे. So because of that fear, ऐसे टाइप के केसेस नहीं रिपोर्ट किए जाते हैं. सो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने फिर रिसेंटली क्या डायरेक्शंस इशू किए हैं, दैट इज आल्सो इम्पोर्टेंट. सो इट हैज डायरेक्टेड द यूनियन स्टेट्स एंड यूटीज टू अंडरटेक टाइम बाउंड एक्सरसाइज टू वेरीफाई कि मिनिस्टर्स या डिपार्टमेंट्स, गवर्नमेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, all the bodies they had constituted the ICCs and local committees भी and internal committees भी under this act, and these bodies they have been ordered to publish the details of their respective committees in their website also. So उनकी जो ऑनलाइन वेबसाइट्स है वहां पे भी इंफॉर्मेशन रिफ्लेक्ट होनी चाहिए so that it is easily accessible, and again awareness में भी it would be helpful. So these are the recent directions by the Supreme Court. So आधार enabled जो पेमेंट सिस्टम है उसमें हमें क्या गैप्स देखने को मिल रहे हैं. So let's understand that and we'll also understand कि firstly कि ये मॉडल है क्या एक्चुअली, and then साइबर क्रिमिनल्स कैसे इसका मिसयूज कर रहे हैं. So we see कि आधार enabled जो पेमेंट सिस्टम है it is bank led model. Bank led model है which allows the online financial transactions at point of sale devices and micro ATMs of any bank using Aadhaar authentication. So Aadhaar authenticate करने के बाद you can make some financial transactions at point of sale devices and micro ATMs पे. So model it removes the need for OTPs या bank account या other financial details आपको provide नहीं करनी पड़ेगी. ना ही कोई आपके पास OTP आएगा, ना आपको कोई ऐसी बैंक डिटेल या फाइनेंशियल डिटेल्स प्रोवाइड करने की जरूरत पड़ेगी अंडर दिस मॉडल. So it allows the fund transfers using only the bank name and Aadhaar number and fingerprint that would be captured during the Aadhaar enrollment according to the National Payments Corporation of India. So basically तीन चीजें क्या चाहिएंगी, एक तो आपका बैंक का नेम क्या है, दूसरा आधार नंबर क्या है, एंड तीसरा आपका फिंगरप्रिंट. So that's how it would be authenticated. And like, is it the Aadhaar enabled payment system जो है, has it been like enabled by default? So neither the Unique Identification Authority of India nor the National Payments Corporation of India, they mentions clearly whether this is enabled by default or not. So इसके ऊपर we are not having much clarity कि whether it is the system it has been enabled by default or not. And Cashless India, जो website managed and it has been run by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, says कि the service does not require any activation. So कोई activation या कुछ ऐसा step लेने की जरूरत नहीं है if you want to get the system activated. So ऐसा कोई भी requirement नहीं है. And it says with the only requirement being that users bank account that should be linked with their Aadhaar number. So अगर आपको आधार इनेबल पेमेंट सिस्टम के थ्रू पेमेंट करनी है तो यू नीड टू इंश्योर कि आपका जो बैंक अकाउंट है एंड जो आधार कार्ड है both of them needs to be linked with each other. So users who wish to receive any benefit या subsidy की बात करें under the schemes which are notified under section 7 of the Aadhaar Act, they have to mandatorily submit their Aadhaar number to the banking service provider according to the UIDAI. So basically जो schemes they are being run by the government, if you want to directly receive the benefit in your bank account, so even in that case providing an Aadhaar number becomes mandatory. So problem क्या आ रही है कि जो biometric information है that is getting leaked. So while Aadhaar data जो Aadhaar data के पहले भी breaches they have been reported in 2018, 19 and 22, but UADI it has denied any breach of the data. मतलब cases report किए गए हैं but UADI का कहना कि ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं हुआ है. And in response to the media reports also UADI said कि जो आधार data है including biometric information that is fully safe है and it is completely secure. However, if we go by the UIDAI's database, it is not the only source from where data can be leaked. So ये important चीज आ जाती है कि इसका मतलब ये हो गया कि जो आधार का जो बायोमेट्रिक डेटा है इट इज नॉट ओनली स्टोर्ड देयर एंड और भी बाकी सोर्सेज हैं जहाँ से the Aadhaar data can be accessed. So Aadhaar numbers, they're readily available in the form of photocopies also and soft copies, and criminals, they are using the Aadhaar enabled payment systems to breach the user information. So that's how cyber criminals, they are misusing it. So scammers, they have in the past made use of silicon to trick devices into initiating the transactions. So how do you secure your Aadhaar biometric information? अब ये बहुत important question है and इस चीज को समझना भी important है so that we can ensure कि हमारा जो Aadhaar biometric information है that remains secure and does not fall into the hands of any cyber criminals. So UADI, it is proposing an amendment to the Aadhaar Sharing of Information Regulations 2016, which will be requiring entities in possession of an Aadhaar number to not share their details unless Aadhaar numbers have been redacted or they've been blacked out through appropriate means, both in print and electronic form. So UADI, it has also implemented a new two-factor authentication mechanism that uses a machine learning based security system combining finger minutiae and your finger image capture to check the liveliness of your fingerprint. So additionally, users, they can also know they're advised to ensure कि they lock their Aadhaar information by visiting the UADI website or using the mobile app. So जो information UADI के पास भी available है आपके आधार data से regarding, आप उसको जाके you can get it logged as well. So this will ensure कि जो biometric information है, even if it is compromised, it cannot be used to initiate financial transactions. So that's how you can keep your Aadhaar data safe online. Now एक important question ये भी समझना important है कि क्या करे अगर ऐसा कोई financial scam आपके साथ हो जाते हैं तो आपको क्या steps लेने चाहिए. So अगर users, they have not already logged their Aadhaar biometric information, so they should do so immediately in case of any suspicious activity in their bank accounts. So अगर ऐसे कोई फाइनेंशियल फ्रॉड होता है तो फर्स्टली आपको जो आपका आधार डेटा है उसको लॉक करना इम्पोर्टेंट है. And users, they are also advised to inform their banks and the concerned authorities as soon as possible. So bank में भी आपको inform करना important हो जाएगा and timely reporting, it can basically ensure कि जो money transfer हो रहा है through fraudulent means, that is returned to the victim. So RBI ने भी एक circular issue किया है stating कि जो customer का entitlement है to zero liability, it arises where the unauthorized transactions occurs and the customer notifies the bank also within 3 working days of receiving a communication from the bank regarding such unauthorized transaction. So if you get any kind of messages कि आपके account से money has been debited, so 3 working days के अंदर अंदर आपको bank को inform करना important हो जाएगा if you want to get your money back. So transformer क्या है? This is basically machine learning model that powers chat GPT. So deep neural networks. And इसके अलावा what is attention ये भी समझेंगे. So deep neural networks की बात करें तो in the first part of 2010s, deep neural networks जो थे, they took over ML by storm, replacing the classic pipeline of handcrafted features and simple classifiers. So DNNs ingest a complete document or image, or they generate a final output without the need to specify a particular way of extracting the features. So while these deep and large models, they have existed in the past also, and they were like hindered, जो उनके large size and millions of parameters थे, that were also problem also. So resurgence of these DNNs in 2010s, it is attributed to the availability of large scale data that is there and the fast parallel computing chips, which is called graphics processing units. So ये कुछ technicalities है, you can just go through this article once on your own. इसमें explain करने का कुछ भी नहीं है. सो कल ये जो सेपरेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की डिमांड इट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम दी ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी. सो इसके बारे में कल हमने देख लिया था. नाउ दे आर डिमांडिंग कि दे नीड अ सेपरेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सिस्टम. So one-stop centers for zero waste to be launched in different cities. And in a step towards cutting down the waste generation in urban India, the government it will launch one-stop centers जहाँ पे citizens they can deposit जो भी उनके like पुराने कपड़े हैं, shoes है, books, toys, plastic that can be reused and recycled. So these triple R centers, they would be set up as a part of the nationwide campaign, which is मेरी लाइफ मेरा स्वच्छ शहर, which is my life my clean city, under the aegis of the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0 to strengthen citizens' resolve to reduce, reuse, recycle. So Russia scrambles jet as France and Germany they conduct the NATO patrols, and France, Germany said its planes they were conducting regular flights as part of NATO exercise and behaved in accordance with the international law. So Syria, it has now been a part of the, it has now been made a part of the Arab League after 12 years. So it is now seeking more of investments into Syria. Coming to the business page, so यहाँ हम देख रहे हैं कि जो exports है, they have fallen to 6-month low on in April on anemic demand. So global demand definitely slow down हो रही है and उसी का impact भी हमें देखने को मिल रहा है in terms of falling exports. So goods trade deficit जो है, it has managed to hit a 20-month low despite a significant drop in the exports. As a consequence of imports are also plummeting by a sharp of 14% as discretionary demand that also shrinks. So जो goods ट्रेड डेफिसिट है, स्पेसिफिकली गुड्स का जो हम ट्रेड डेफिसिट की बात करें तो दैट इज अ 20-month लो. बट अब नाउ यहाँ पे यही समझना इंपॉर्टेंट है कि एक्सपोर्ट्स तो फॉल हो ही रही है, तो हमने देख लिया दे आर एट 6-month लो. तो उसके बाद भी ट्रेड डेफिसिट कैसे कम हो सकता है? एक ही मतलब पॉसिबल सिचुएशन है कि आपके इम्पोर्ट्स भी कम हो रहे हैं कंपेयर्ड कि जितना आप एक्सपोर्ट्स में शॉर्टफॉल देख रहे हो. तो बेसिकली उसकी वजह से जो गुड्स का ट्रेड डेफिसिट है दैट इज एट अ लोअर लेवल. So NSE ने लॉन्च किया WTI क्रूड ऑयल एंड गैस फ्यूचर्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स. सो फ्यूचर्स एंड ऑप्शंस आपको पता होना चाहिए, मतलब बेसिक आइडिया आपको पता होना चाहिए इनके बारे में. हाउ डू दे फंक्शन? सिंपल आइडिया दैट वुड बी इनफ. Now coming to the Mint newspaper, so WhatsApp spam in India, what is basically causing this spam? इसको बस जल्दी से समझ लेते हैं. So once an innovative instant messaging service, WhatsApp today it offers businesses one of the most effective ways to reach to the users. But like the text messages and the calls, जो expansion है, it has come with spam and the scams. So what is happening to WhatsApp actually? So a host of users they have reported getting spam and scam calls and messages from unknown international numbers on WhatsApp. Yes, that's true, and even I have faced this कि आपको international number से मतलब आगे होगा +63 कुछ इस टाइप का नंबर होगा. So these are like अगर आगे 91 नहीं है तो basically that is a call out of India. So WhatsApp calls मिल रहे हैं बहुत सारे ऐसे केसेस रिपोर्ट भी किए गए हैं कि मैसेजेस भी आ रहे हैं, आपको व्हाट्सएप कॉल्स भी मिल रहे हैं. So here we see कि WhatsApp has also issued a statement reaffirming its commitment to user safety and security. It also claimed that it has ramped up its artificial intelligence and machine learning systems to deal with such abuse, and that its new enforcement regime that would bring them down by at least 50%. So ये तो हो गया कि क्या issue है. But why are they increasing? वो भी important है समझना. So we see कि users, they have started receiving the test from a host of businesses since the platform introduced the feature, which could lead to them having to, put up with like even more spam. So WhatsApp does not charge normal users for the messaging, and businesses offer the firm a revenue source also. So it has over 2 billion users worldwide, which could make it one of the most lucrative revenue sources for Meta, which owns the WhatsApp. So that's there. And मतलब it is not just restricted to even WhatsApp. जहाँ पे भी लूप होल्स है बाकी प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं, वहाँ पे भी ऐसे केसेस देखने को मिल रहे हैं. लाइक आप टेलीग्राम की भी बात करें तो वहाँ पे भी ऐसे केसेस रिपोर्ट किए गए हैं. तो एक ट्रेंड हमें देखने को मिल रहा है व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट इन्फ्लेशन, की इन्फ्लेशन तो हमें कम होती हुई दिखाई दे रही है लास्ट 2 मंथ से. हम मतलब डेली बेसिस पे बात कर ही रहे हैं रिगार्डिंग इन्फ्लेशन स्लो डाउन. सो इन्फ्लेशन तो कम हो रही है बट प्राइसेस स्टिल हायर लेवल पे चल रहे हैं. बट प्राइसेस भी कम होने चाहिए थे ना अगर इन्फ्लेशन कम हो रही है. तो एक ये हमें बेसिकली indirect relationship देखने को मिल रहा है in terms of inflation and the prices. So consumer prices, they rose in April even as year on year pace slowed down. So in this graph, this is also you can see कि month on month की जो changes थे CPI में in terms of percentage, that has been depicted in this graph. So earlier it was like also in negative territory also. So यहाँ पे it is we are seeing कि क्या changes हो रहे हैं in CPI. So sharp relief in the retail inflation was mainly from favorable base as prices they had surged last April as an outcome of the Ukraine's invasion. So पिछले साल इस time of period पे प्राइसेस बहुत ज्यादा हाई चल रहे थे बिकॉज ऑफ दिस रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर. सो उस लेवल से अगर हम आज प्राइसेस कंपेयर करें तो ऑब्वियसली हमें बहुत ज्यादा डिफरेंस देखने को मिल रहा है. सो दिस इज फेवरेबल बेस इफेक्ट ऑल्सो, या आप हाई बेस इफेक्ट भी बोल सकते हो. So comfort from the high base, it will continue even in May. So high prices, they remain unchanged. So matlab basically agar prices, they are remaining unchanged, and inflation, it will decline by another percentage point. And even if the prices, they rise by 0.5 percentage, so inflation will come down to 4.2%. So it is being like, as per the calculations, that's how the relationship is. So while the base, it will normalize thereafter after some point of time, क्योंकि आगे वाले months में भी prices high रहेगा when we are comparing on yearly basis. So inflation, it may still remain comfortably below the upper tolerance band because of this favorable base effect again. So कुछ economists, they are predicting कि sub 5% print in 2023 would be there as far as inflation rate is concerned. So while consumers, they may continue to feel the price pinch, the cool off has set the stage for a long pause on the repo rate hikes also. So ये भी हम कल बात कर चुके थे. So inflation, it has cooled down, giving policymakers some solace against the backdrop of global economic uncertainty. But consumers, they are likely to continue to experience the price pinch. So as per the analysis done by the Mint, of 299 items for which Statistics Ministry releases the data shows कि significant number of items हैं which are still recording a sharp sequential price pressure. Still, price pressure remains a problem despite inflation cool down. So April May sequential inflation rate, it paced up from 141 items, and the highest number of such items that was there in 3 months. सो सीरियल इन्फ्लेशन का भी अगर हम ट्रेंड समझने की कोशिश करें, इट इज कमिंग डाउन, बट कंफर्ट फ्रॉम वेजिटेबल्स दैट इज फेडिंग अवे, क्योंकि वेजिटेबल प्राइसेस आप देख सकते हो दे आर इंक्रीजिंग gradually, they are increasing, and cereal and products की inflation you can see कि downward trend पे it has started to work. So बट अभी राइट नाउ अगर हम लेवल की बात करें तो देन तो वी कैन से कि सीरियल इन्फ्लेशन स्टिल इट इज अ प्रॉब्लम, क्योंकि प्राइसेस स्टिल कंपैरेटिवली हायर है कंपेयर टू दैट ऑफ द वेजिटेबल्स. Then gold rush, global uncertainty that is stock the gold prices, global जो financial crisis kind of situation हम बोल सकते हैं. एंड जब हम यूएस डेट सीलिंग की बात करते हैं तो वो चीज़ भी आ जाती है. एंड रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर डेफिनेटली दैट इज वन ऑफ द रीजंस. एंड उसके अलावा जो टाइट मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी की वजह से यूएस में 3 बैंक्स का हमें फेलियर देखने को मिला, एक वो प्रॉब्लम भी है. तो ग्लोबल अनसर्टेनिटी दैट कंटिन्यूज, जिसकी वजह से जो गोल्ड के प्राइसेस हैं वो इंक्रीज हो गए हैं. एंड डेफिनेटली इंडिया इट इम्पोर्ट्स सफिशिएंटली लार्जर अमाउंट ऑफ गोल्ड, तो उसकी वजह से इम्पोर्टेड इन्फ्लेशन इंडिया में भी इंक्रीज हो रही है. सो लास्ट 2 साल में गोल्ड के जो प्राइसेस है दे आर एट द हाईएस्ट लेवल्स. सो यू कैन सी 13.88% पे it is the rate of gold inflation in the month of April 2023. So wholesale inflation की बात करें तो wholesale inflation enters the negative territory in a first since July 2020. It's the first time 2020 जुलाई से अगर हम कंपेयर करें. So wholesale inflation you can see कि negative territory में negative area में it is been entered both for manufactured products and headline inflation दोनों की अगर हम बात करें. सो दैट इज द रीजन कि मतलब अगर खाली मतलब जो डोमेस्टिक सीपीआई है उसको उसके बेसिस पे हम नहीं बोल सकते कि अगर खाली सीपीआई कम हो रहा है तो जो प्राइसेस है बाकी प्रोडक्ट्स के वो भी फॉल होंगे ही होंगे, क्योंकि और भी बाकी फैक्टर्स हैं जो प्राइसेस को इम्पैक्ट करते हैं. सो दैट्स व्हाई वी आर सीइंग द गैप बिटवीन like slow down your falling CPI and rising like pressure on the prices of the products. Now taking up Financial Express. So let's see Financial Express and the important articles from this newspaper. So deflation, inflation, disinflation, इनके बीच में आपको मीनिंग पता होना इम्पोर्टेंट है. एंड जैसे कि अभी जस्ट हमने देखा कि जो होलसेल प्राइस इंडेक्स है इट एंटर्स डिफ्लेशन जोन, बेसिकली नेगेटिव टेरिटरी में इट हैज एंटर्ड. डिफ्लेशन मतलब यहाँ पे भी आप ग्राफ के थ्रू देख सकते हो कि 0 से नीचे वाले लेवल पे WPI ने एंट्री कर लिया. सो इट इज एट -0.92% एंड CPI देखोगे तो इट इज एट 4.7%. सो एक्सपोर्ट्स दे ऑल्सो डिक्रीजेस बाय 13% इन अप्रैल, बट हमने देखा जो गुड्स का ट्रेड डेफिसिट था वो भी कम हुआ है क्योंकि हमारे इम्पोर्ट्स भी कम हुए हैं. सो दैट इज अनदर एरिया टू अंडरस्टैंड. सो गुड्स एक्सपोर्ट तो हम देख रहे हैं कि दे आर फॉलिंग, बट जो सर्विसेज एक्सपोर्ट्स है दे आर बेसिकली एक्टिंग एज अ क्वेश्चन एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम, एंड बहुत ही ज्यादा जो इम्पोर्टेंट रोल प्ले कर रहे हैं सर्विसेज एक्सपोर्ट्स. दैट इज लाइक वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट स्पेसिफिकली इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ इंडिया. तो services exports they have increased up to 26%. So imports they also contract sharper, so trade deficit at 20-month low. सो यहाँ पे स्पेसिफिकली गुड्स ट्रेड की बात की जा रही है थ्रू दिस ग्राफ. एंड जो ट्रेंड है वो हम ऑलरेडी समझ चुके हैं. सो दैट्स हाउ दैट इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट इज बीन शोन थ्रू दिस ग्राफ आल्सो. सो यहाँ हम देख चुके हैं कि सर्विसेज एक्सपोर्ट्स इंक्रीज हो रहे हैं, गुड्स एक्सपोर्ट फॉल हो रहे हैं, एंड जो ट्रेड डेफिसिट था दैट इज ऑल्सो नैरोइंग डाउन क्योंकि हमारे इम्पोर्ट्स भी फॉल हो रहे हैं. In the Indian Express newspaper today, here the panel has asked us for audio and video proof. Member said ki sing like father figure. So wrestlers say ki video switched off at times and oversight committee member denies ki everything has been transcribed. So basically wrestlers से proof मांगा जा रहा है and जो सिचुएशन है वो उन्होंने एक्सप्लेन कर दिया. सो स्टिल प्रोटेस्ट इज कंटिन्यूइंग बट जो रेसलिंग फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया का जो मतलब जो मेंबर्स थे या बोल सकते हैं जो द इनकम्बेंट पीपल वर देयर, सो हम बोल सकते हैं कि इट हैज बीन डिसॉल्व्ड एंड investigation, it is basically we can hope it would be carried out in an unbiased manner. So turning off the turn of capex cycle. So capital expenditure, revenue expenditure, capital receipts, revenue receipts क्या होती हैं? With examples आपको पता होना चाहिए. So with inflation moderating, RBI showing signs of extended pause on the monetary tightening and economy looks primed for take off right now. But सिर्फ हम inflation के basis पे अगर ये बोलेंगे तो that wouldn't be like काइंड ऑफ एन एक्सेप्टेबल थिंग क्योंकि बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स हैं जो सेम पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे दे आर वर्किंग एंड दे आर हैविंग देयर ओन इम्पैक्ट्स. बट येस विद इन्फ्लेशन मॉडरेटिंग वी कैन एक्सपेक्ट कि आरबीआई आने वाले टाइम में जो रेपो रेट हाइक है it will pause that and economy definitely it would be helping in the expansion of the economy also. And then आज हमने देखा कि WPI inflation it has also like entered the negative territory, it is entered into the deflation zone, so that's there. And then government के अगर हम fiscal measures की बात करें तो cut in corporate tax rate and then production linked incentive schemes while continue to ramp up its own capital expenditure to historic levels. So these are some of the fiscal measures कि corporate tax rate कम किया गया and capital expenditure का जो size है that has been increased to historic levels. Apart from this, through schemes like production linked incentive schemes, domestic production को increase करने की कोशिश की जा रही है so that जो डोमेस्टिक सप्लाई है वो एडिक्वेट अमाउंट का बना रहे एंड कंपेयर टू द लेवल ऑफ डिमांड सप्लाई में हमें क्रंच नहीं देखने को मिले. तो बेसिकली इसको हम बोलते हैं डिमांड सप्लाई मिसमैच. सो दैट इज वन ऑफ द रीजंस व्हाई इन्फ्लेशन इज देयर इन इंडिया. Coming to the explained page, so here the new Alzheimer's drug will look into this and it is related to science. So this is the name of the drug. It was founded to slow down the cognitive decline by 35% in people with early Alzheimer's. While these are just preliminary findings, and why has this medicine, it is yet to be approved, it has generated excitement. So let's see. So we see that within a year, a second drug, it has been found effective in checking the cognitive decline in the people with early Alzheimer's. So developed by the first pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly, it was found to slow down the cognitive decline by 35% when compared with a placebo in phase 3 trials. So two recent drugs, they don't stop or reverse the Alzheimer's. However, their results, they have still excited the neurologists. मतलब जो ये disease है, Alzheimer's disease है, जो दो drugs हैं, उसको stop या reverse नहीं करता है. But मतलब कि we can say कि जो cognitive decline है, उसको 35% तक decline कर देता है. तो कहीं ना कहीं definitely help कर रहा है. And here it is like talking about the findings also. So drug मतलब काम कैसे करता है? So it is like monoclonal antibody which targets the abnormal plaques of the amyloid beta protein characteristically seen in brain images of those with the Alzheimer's. So its mechanism of action is similar to the lecanemab, which is the first drug which was developed by the Japanese and American companies. And so this was the first drug for the Alzheimer's, which received approval in 2021 after decades, and it is also functioning on the similar mechanism. So all three of them, they are linked to similar side effects also, like you'll witness temporary swelling and tiny bleeds in the brain, which is called the amyloid-related imaging abnormalities. So this is one of the symptoms of consuming these disease. So, like, how can Alzheimer's be prevented? So, lifestyle modifications that are known to reduce the risk of other non-communicable diseases like diabetes हो गया, hypertension हो गया, they are also associated with a lower risk of Alzheimer's. So, these are also, we call them as lifestyle diseases. So, basically, आपको अपना lifestyle इस तरीके से modify करना है कि ये जो बाकी non-communicable diseases हैं वो आपके आसपास भी ना आ पाए. And इसके अलावा doctors they also prescribe you need to like go for a healthy diet. मतलब जो normal आपका healthy lifestyle होना चाहिए, you need to follow that. You need to sleep well, reduce the risk of diabetes and heart diseases. You need to exercise regularly. So they also suggest stopping smoking and reducing drinking. So India ripe target for electric vehicle companies, but domestic take-up is slow जब हम electric vehicles की sales की बात करते हैं. So 90% EVs in India, they are in the 2 and the 3-wheeler segment. So basically जब हम cars की बात करते हैं तो they are like really very expensive and not affordable for the common people. So no Indian firm is likely to have a meaningful global share of electric vehicles in the foreseeable future. And Asia to become the center of the electric vehicle era, and Tata Motors, it is leading in the EV segment with over 80% of the market share right now. But going by the sales of EVs in India, so it has more than doubled. Last year in India, electric vehicle sales, they represented less than 2% of the total light vehicle sales in the last 12 months. And that's the update here. So RBI's switch auction of the government securities stays undersubscribed on the tight liquidity condition. So Reserve Bank of India's switch, or we can say conversion auction of the government securities of rupees 20,000 crores, it remained undersubscribed as liquidity that remains tight and banks demanded higher yields. So because of these two reasons, they remained undersubscribed. So switches and conversions, they have been used to defer the payments due in the next couple of years with the maturities being stretched. So that's basically what do we mean by the switches and the conversion. जो government securities है उनकी maturities को और extend करने के लिए you need to subscribe to them. So this reduces the pressure on the market in terms of the fresh borrowings being needed. तो बेसिकली अगर आप उनका आप मेच्योरिटी टाइम पीरियड और एक्सटेंड कर दोगे तो आपको मतलब ऑब्वियसली अगर कुछ टाइम में आप बॉन्ड्स अगर वो सिक्योरिटीज मेच्योर होने वाली है तो आपकी जो लाइबिलिटीज है ऑब्वियसली वो इंक्रीज हो जाती है या फिर आपके ऊपर वो एक प्रेशर बना रहता है कि आपको इस टाइम पीरियड के अंदर अंदर या एक शॉर्ट टाइम पीरियड ही बचा होता है जब दी सिक्योरिटीज दे आर गोइंग टू गेट मेच्योर्ड एंड आपको जो फिर रिटर्न्स पे करने होते हैं उसके लिए आपको और बोरोइंग्स करनी पड़ती हैं तो ये प्रेशर रिड्यूस हो जाता है ऑन द मार्केट अगर बॉन्ड्स की जो मेच्योरिटी है या मतलब बेसिकली उनको थोड़ा और एक्स्ट्रा टाइम मिल जाता है सो विंडफॉल टैक्स की बात करें तो वी हैव कट द विंडफॉल टैक्स ऑन पेट्रोलियम क्रूड टू जीरो सो राइट नाउ देयर इज नो विंडफॉल टैक्स ऑन पेट्रोलियम क्रूड राइट नाउ so that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us in today's analysis video and do like the video also.